Welcome to Belmont Poetry Night. I'm Monica Korde, your host and the Poet Laureate of Belmont, California. We meet on the third Tuesdays of every month to celebrate the spoken word as makers, listeners, and admirers of poetry. We come with featured guests sometimes and an open mic always. And although we may still not be at our favorite physical venue, the Belmont Library, since the pandemic, our thriving poetry circle has transitioned to this virtual space, and I am grateful this allows me to welcome poets and listeners from across the globe. It would be great to know where you are joining me from. So please share in the chat as you always do. Thanks for joining me and zooming in. And I wanted to say how much joy it is to curate these evenings, bringing in a new featured poet or artist each month and holding a conversation with the maker and their craft. This month, I wanted to turn your gaze to commemorating the LGBTQIA plus voices, honored especially through the month of June as part of the Pride Month celebrations, and celebrate this poetry night in the theme of pride in poetry. Queer poetry, as you know, has always held space for diverse voices, and by way of verse, queer poets enter significant conversations in a way that matters, writing with an urgency of the present and also giving us a glimpse into their past, their history and heritage. Raquel Salas Rivera is one such non-binary poet writing today, an advocate for migrants and for the LGBTQ community. And I'd like to begin by sharing this poem that opens up new meanings, reshaping the way we think of language, self, and world making. The poem is called They by Raquel Salas Rivera. They. What do we eat when a name dies? Yesterday, your mother stopped by, but she didn't recognize me as your friend's friend, the previous one. What is that about, having a dead friend in the wallet with a picture of a kidnapped kid? Have you seen my son? He's short and collects photos of swings. My short hair isn't professional. Your long hair doesn't prepare you. Between the two of us, we figure out how to fake we are marionettes, not people. It's difficult to count the days since the last time we went out. What is that about? Going out and not having to explain you aren't that her or that thing. In this, our language, there exists no plural that doesn't deny me. Raquel Salas Rivera is a bilingual Puerto Rican poet, and they served as the Poet Laureate of Philadelphia for the year 2018 to 19. And when talking about poetry, I love the poet's thoughts that there are poems like Solidarities, reaching out to others and becoming larger than itself. That is the beauty of poetry, isn't it? And also, the poem that you just heard, the last two lines, I will repeat them again because there is a footnote that the poet provides. In this, our language, there exists no plural that doesn't deny me. And the footnote says, our language is Spanish, ours, but never quite mine. Mm. So, we have another bilingual poeta, a queer chica in the house, and I'm so happy to feature the young and happening Hilary Cruz Mejía tonight. Although she has read at several poetry venues and co-featured with some amazing poets around the Bay, I'm most excited for this one because this is her first solo featured reading, if I understand correctly. And now, before I take our conversation on pride in poetry ahead with her, let me first tell you something about Hilary. Hilary Cruz Mejía, pronouns they, she, él, is a poet and activist from the coastal waters of Guatemala. Her work has appeared in a couple of online magazines and platforms such as Migozine, Lesbians Are Miracles, Portside, and others. Hilary's transition to the US as a queer, immigrant, and first-generation college student has been presented in her poetry, where she also encourages her readers to preserve the indigenous roots of the land that were stolen. Outside of writing, she spends her time learning her abuela's recipes, decolonizing her tongue, and keeping on track with her homework. You can follow her on Instagram at Hilary_Natasha. Hilary, you are most welcome. And talking about homework, I know the semester's done, but your summer classes are still on. So did you get your homework done before joining us tonight?
Good question. They're due on Fridays, we still have time. It's a lot of readings, but it's going somewhere.
Wonderful, wonderful. And yeah, if you're ready to treat us tonight, let's go ahead and you can offer us a few pieces before we open up for a conversation.
Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for, taking some of your time just to, be here. And it's really beautiful. I have come to this 9 poetry events a couple of times, and I enjoy it because it's a really cozy community. So thank you for just, taking your time to be here. I'll make sure I don't bore you with a bunch of words. The other thing that I like to say is I just want to acknowledge that I'm in San Bruno right now and we're on Ohlone territory. So with all due respect and with the guidance of our ancestors, my ancestors, I will start sharing you some poetry. This one is called Virtual Hands of a Country That Is Not Heard. Where do you come from? But really from. I am from a very small coastal port where you get by fishing and driving people around in a tricycle from 3 to 5 quetzales. From a 5-minute walk to the beach, from the hope of rain that can freshen up La Milpa, from the hope that rain doesn't make the ocean mad and hug us all with her water and welcomes us with a hurricane. Well, where do you come from? But really from. I am from a small municipio that lives in las orillas del Océano Pacífico, bittered with the rivers Michatoya, Maria Linda, y el Canal de Chiquimulía. From the inlets of the river where the conqueror Pedro de Alvarado builds its ships to go together with Francisco Pizarro in the conquest of Peru. I am from a conservative and diverse neighborhood that I call home. I am from Puerto Iztapa. I am from Puerto de Champerico. I am from the blood of my Mayan ancestors. I am from the roots of my Mesoamerica. From a country in the world that I call home. But I'm really from the hands of Pachamama and the rage of poetry as a movement to heal the wounds that penetrate our meaning of home, of the land where conquistadores told us our home was not ours anymore, of the land where tea can heal the pain within your heart from what they good, not what they think is bad, the land of the trees, Guatemala. There is this other poem. This one I'll share with you in Spanish first, and then I'll share it in English. It's called Esta noche sueño con dormir en los brazos de mi abuela, pero ayer ella preparó té para curarme el corazón. Sorry, I gave tours today. I'm a tour guide at San Francisco State, so my voice is coming back little by little. Quiero caer del cielo, como las lágrimas que bañan nuestros ríos. Sueño con recoger flores de sus manos, como las heridas que le han marcado el rostro, dejándola poco a poco saborear el chocolate agridulce casero. un trozo de jade que refleja la luz que viene después de una tormenta de invierno tropical en nuestra casa. Tonight, I dream of sleeping in my abuela's arms, but yesterday she prepared tea to heal my heart. I want to fall from the sky like the tears that bathe our rivers. I dream of picking up flower from her hands like the ones that have marked her face, slowly letting her taste bittersweet homemade chocolate, a piece of jade reflecting the light that comes after a tropical winter storm in our home. This next poem, it's a poem that I recently found. I wrote it in 2019, yeah. So I was going on a rabbit hole trying to find poems to share with you all, and then I found that one. I shared it last time in a poetry reading, and this is my second time sharing it. It's called Our Little Universe, and it's old, so you might be, if you have heard me before, you might see that it's a little bit, I don't know, beginner Hilary. I'll say that, beginner Hilary, level 1. It starts like this. Milk, the one I put on my cup of coffee at 6:30 in the morning, every morning, sitting on the room's chair from Sunday to Saturday. The room, the garage, 30 feet long, 20 feet wide, 12 feet used to form a room where 2 single beds looked good. A closet that divides the clothes of 2 people, and a 3-store table. On the first level, you will find the electric stove, the olive oil, the coffee maker. Oh, bendita coffee maker that keeps my coffee warm, ready to pour milk. Oh, bendita milk that with 25% discount that expires in a week keeps my coffee delicious. The second level, tortillas, coffee beans, chocolate bars, salt, vegetables, couple of potatoes. The third level, the sugar bowl, the brownies. Oh, bless those brownies that were baked by Lucia. The blender, oh, with 50% off. The garage, the room, with 15 plants around because my sister says she needs company. And the plants forgive you if you did forget to water them for a couple of days while you were crying or working. The plants steal your oxygen, though they also share it with you. And they keep home very warm. Home, the garage, the room. Home, the room. The shoes and the shoe cabinet, because if you do not leave them there, you will fall. The water filter, because I did not have enough money to buy bottles of water every thirsty time. Though my sister says that apart from being economical, we're 2 more people who avoid the unnecessary use of plastic. The guitar, the ukulele, the harmonica, they are not ornaments. When I write, I play, I sing to my father who's gone, and he comes back in the melody. The guitar, the ukulele, the harmonica, home, the garage, the room. The older sister who doesn't know what to become in life, but who is a wild lover of science, of magic, of life, of the unknown. The younger sister who buys many books to keep her mind busy during the year, even though she doesn't read them. The sister that when one cries, the other one prepares coffee and makes warm food. Barriga llena, corazón contento, dice mi abuela. The sisters, the guitar, the ukulele, the harmonica, home, the garage, the room. 12 feet wide, 30 feet long, a small place, no stairs, with everything you will need to pass the days, Monday to Sunday. A couple of smiles that keep home warm, home, the garage, the room, home. Our little corner in the world, our cosmos, our little universe, hermana. Thank you.
Woohoo! Fantastic, wow. Hilary. What amazing reading. Wow. That was really great. And I really want to take all of us back to some of the poems that you read there, especially your opening piece. It's so amazing, really moving the way you have brought all the love and passion that you feel. And you are so proud and loud about your identity, your Mayan heritage, and not all of your poetry is queer-centric, and not all of your poetry is a protest. From what we have just heard, like I said, your opening poem is about your homeland, and I'd like to quote from that, the last few lines from it, from Guate, good, not Guate, what they think is bad, the land of the trees, Guatemala. It's so beautiful. The poems remembering your abuela, your grandmother, and the last one, a beautiful ode to your hermana, your sister. So from the work that I have also heard in the past years, I have seen that your poetry has been an earnest exploration in finding your way back to your roots, to your home, and to yourself. Tell us, how has poetry guided you in telling your story, building your narrative, and what inspired you to start writing?
Whew. Uh, well, I guess it takes me back to, I mean, when I was little, I dreamt of being way too many things. I always dreamt of being a writer, even though I didn't write when I was little. But, you know, I started writing on 2018 because my father had recently passed away. My sister and I weren't getting that emotional support that we needed, I felt. So, you know, I was talking to friends about what I was feeling and stuff like that. But, you know, at some point, I don't know, I felt that it's also not just talking about it with somebody else, but it's also a process that you need to, that I needed to find something to learn to live with it, right? To learn to live with the fact that he is no longer alive. So, you know, I started writing out of anger, out of complaint, out of questions. And so it began, you know, and then after I felt that I was able to heal myself in a way with learning that my father has passed away, then I started to notice that there were other issues that had a lot to do with me and who I am, and that I couldn't be quiet about it, that I needed to say something about it. So at that moment, I had already like built my weight, I guess, into like open mics. And then that's when I feel that poetry then gave me that, became a door in a sense for me to walk through it and, you know, get to know myself more. And that's one of the things that I've been able to understand through poetry, that I get to know myself, right? One thing that we were talking about the other day, it's that I wrote all of these poems before and I keep writing poems, but sometimes I forget that I wrote a poem, and then like this one, the last one that I shared, I realized that I wrote it a while ago, and then, you know, I don't know, I thought I didn't recognize that feeling in a way, but then the memory came, and then it was just, you know, oh, I don't feel the same way when I read this poem and when I wrote the poem. So it's just a way to heal myself in a sense, and to also find myself, who I am in the community. And so I feel that it's just acknowledging my presence to my own self in a way, without having to, you know, with the necessity of feeling that I have achieved something, just to know the fact that I'm me, and that I am getting there to somewhere where I want to be. So I feel that has been a way that poetry has guided me.
Absolutely, beautifully put, Hilary. I love that through poetry, you are looking ways to heal, and not just to heal, but to acknowledge yourself so importantly, as you mentioned that. Would love to hear more from you, and yeah, let's hear a few more poems now.
Right. This might be a little bit different from what I share already. I like to stand for this one, just out of respect. These two poems were, one was wrote after the other one. So One is called Let Our Pueblos Originarios Live, and the other one is called Heart of the Sky. What are we allowed to choose? What are we allowed to consent? What are we allowed to consume? How are we allowed to live? Rip my heart, take it with you, place it in the void that lives inside of you. If my heart is what you need, take it. Let them live. Let my people live. I cannot give my hands, they belong to the earth. I cannot give my soul, she belongs to my ancestors. I cannot give you my eyes. You won't be able to see with them. I offer you my heart. Let them live, my people. Heart of the sky. Let my heart torment your chest. Let its blood poison your soul. Let its pain accelerate the migration of the smoke. Let it question who you can become. Let it decolonize your thoughts. Let it embody the death that your hands cause. Let it destroy your nights. Let it show you that those are not nightmares. Let it show you that our people are not dead. Let it show you that our people are healing. Walking the rainforest, the deserts, the mountains, the lakes, the streets, the highways, the trails that our hearts are creating. Let it show you that we are not living, that our promise to take care of our mother is more powerful than your hate. Let my heart penetrate the roots that connect the lives brought to our lands. Thank you. This is this other poem. I'm just gonna share in Spanish to sweeten the mood. I recently, one of my creative writing classes, actually, I wrote a poem. I wrote my first ever sonnet. I'm gonna share with you in Spanish, just in Spanish. So I just ask you if you don't understand the language, just listen to it. It's a love poem, no traditional love poem. Soneto 1. Dulce delirio lírico que me atormenta el pecho, con esos labios rojos de flor de Jamaica azotando y bañando los sentidos de este amor violeta que no nos hace violentas, por gemir este sentimiento incoherente. Me desespera la gente que te aleja de lo divina que es tu rebeldía, tu nido de pájaro que entrelaza mi pueblo grueso y negro, cosquilluda aventura ancestral, en busca de sangre serpentina. La utopía de estas manos morenas gruesas en busca de enrollarse en tu piel. Belleza oscura que me alienta las ganas de tocarte el alma con manchas de oro, garras filosas. Felina guerrera de los bosques mojados, mojada, andante de lo anormal. Pecado tan mío como espejo de la física cuántica, que no me pertenece a mí ni al estado de conciencia social, una cascada espiritual con agua termal que baña mi cara, lo vocal. Thank you.
Maravillosa, Hilary. Gracias.
Thank you.
That was amazing. I loved how you stood up and delivered your poems with such power and grace. I love how you captured the space as you captured the essence of the words. And I wanted to bring us to the question that you write in 2 languages, your native tongue, Spanish and English. And I see you are not only bridging gaps, but you are also magnifying the gaps that exist by sometimes not supplying us with a translation. I think it is a powerful way of retaining your immigrant identity, your language. In your words, you say, through poetry, you are decolonizing your tongue. Can you share your thoughts on this?
That is actually something that I have been having just myself and a conflict with, I feel. I feel aware Spanish is also a colonizer's tongue, right? So it's English. One thing that I've been debating about is in here in the US, speaking Spanish, will be a definition of the colonizing my tongue. But going back to my land, going back to Guatemala, where there is still 22 live Mayan dialects, speaking Spanish is not the colonizing my tongue, right? So it's something that I debate about within myself. I unfortunately did not learn any dialects. If I trace the roots, my great-grandmother was the last one who spoke Cachiquel, one thing that I recently learned about by talking on the phone with my grandma. And so I feel that then the opportunity that I have then is just to, in a way to, with this conflict, I feel just to, at the end, just own that part of me and make of it whatever I can do about it. I feel that the colonizing my tongue, it's not necessarily, then I came to understanding that the colonizing my tongue, it's not necessarily stop speaking Spanish and then forget about Spanish and then start learning a dialect. And I understood that it's not about that. It's about understanding other conflicts, understanding that speaking Spanish is part of this historical thing, right? That has been, that it's still part of our lives. So to me, the colonizing my tongue will be becoming aware of the things that I say, of the things that I think, of the way that I feel. So I feel that to me, as of now, that's how I can, that's how I am able to recognize it within in my own environment of the things that I have control over.
Right, Hilary. And just to extend that question further, from what all you said about how you connect with the language, or how in different spaces you are saying you decolonize your tongue. In some spaces you are successful in doing that. In some spaces you know that it doesn't work. But the first opening poem that I read by Raquel Rivera, I was listening to one of her interviews, and she mentions that she also writes in Spanish and English, and she doesn't think that she is writing in two different languages. It's just a very natural, organic thing that happens, that she writes in Spanish and the same work happens in English then. For your work, do you feel that you're writing in two different languages separately? Do you distinguish between them very strongly, or does it like flow from one into another?
You know, I've been living in the States for almost 6 years now. So at the beginning, when I recently came here, I did not know the language, knew the basics, you know, good morning, thanks, bye, to get out of an awkward situation. But at the beginning, I will say that most of my poems, I only wrote in Spanish and then I had to translate it. For example, like when I was doing my essays for like my first year of community college, I wrote my 5-page essay in Spanish and then went on to translating it with Google Translate help. But now I practice more the language, right, with my friends, with my coworkers. So in some moments, I feel that it does come naturally. Sometimes I choose like think of a poem just in English, or they come like mix. So I think in a way it's just, you know, it comes naturally. It's just that it takes time, I feel, for me to digest the fact that I am becoming somebody else, you know, that I am no longer the person who used to live in Guatemala 6 years ago, that I am becoming a new person, right? And through language, I feel that is a way that I can see that, right? That I can, writing shows me that I am becoming somebody else, right, in the process. So.
Absolutely. I think that's the beauty of the spoken word, the written word, that it just allows us to have this space where you can question yourself and you can find and discover a new you every time. So it's amazing. Yeah. Go ahead, Hilary. Let us hear another piece.
All right. Have this other poem. This is I'll say a love poem. You can think of it whichever way you would like to think of it. It's called Celestial Medicine. I want to hear your heartbeat. I want to hear your sons of pleasure. I want to place my hands on your curvy brown body, soothing the natural caffeine that runs throughout the comfort of our bed. I want to learn to love you. I want to learn to touch you. I want to play the symphony of my free sounds on your curvy brown body, transforming the sweat waters into rosemary and sage smell. To place your hands on top of my chest, learning to let our voice resonate with the traveling souls that hope to reincarnate on our earthy bodies that ache from its spiritual Mayan descendants.
Beautiful, Hilary. I would definitely say it is a beautifully written love poem. Thank you for sharing that piece. And in one of his interviews, I remember poet Jerry Cho Brown talks about how readers bring a baggage of queer poetry that obscures their ability to recognize the craft. The questions are often centered around his sexuality, his work as a gay Black poet, rather than his poetry itself. And these thoughts can be subjective, since each artist creates and shares their art with a certain intention, a purpose behind it. You are a young Latina, an immigrant, and a queer poet, representing many communities, growing and evolving as we see with your poetry. What is it that you want your reader or listener to recognize in the poetry that you write?
You know, one thing that I recently learned is our performance, right? We perform our personality in a different way. Hold on, let me close the window because I live near the airplane.
I was just wondering, yeah, if there is a window open. Good call. Thank
Sorry.
you.
The advantage of it is that if I need to travel somewhere, it's only a 10-minute bus drive, 5-minute BART drive. So I get that advantage. Disadvantage is too, midnight noise of the airplanes. Sometimes I feel that they're way too close, but anyways. Well, shoot, I forgot the question. Oh, I remember them. I feel them, well, the thing that I recently learned is the performance that, right? We perform in different ways, right? The way I perform my poems is not the way that I talk every day with my friends, with my grandmother. I don't say to my hello, grandmother, and stuff like that, right? So I talk to her in a different way. So I feel that it's something that I personally don't know if I would like to separate the art from myself as well. I don't know about that yet, but one thing that I can tell you is that I like people not to think that I speak on poetic language all the time. I write poetic language sometimes. I like to think that sometimes I think thoughts, poetic thoughts. But I don't know, I feel that it's just for people, at least for me, to be conscious that, you know, I'm not always this way. I'm very silly. I do terrible jokes. I am very energetic, and way two other things you will not think that I am. But you know, so it's just I think it's just that I like people just to know, to be conscious that I'm not always in this performative presentation, right? I'm a different person, not a completely different person, but this is just one part of me in a way.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, the poem that you read about your sister was like the beginner Hilary.
Yeah.
So we know that it's a different version you are offering to us every time you are on the stage or on the page, or even right in your room, like you're there behind the camera. And I think I just love the energy with which you share. And I feel that it's wonderful that you are taking the spirit of poetry in connecting with all of us around you. Let's hear another piece as we move towards the end.
All right, so I have this other poem I was reading for Pride Month as well, dedicated to one of the events that San Mateo County hold, and it's called Light in the Fogginess. When it comes to tell you who I am, my mind wonders if you want my name or the things that differs me from the world. When it comes to recognize who I am, I then thank Marcia Jensen, Sylvia Rivera, the women that fought, the women that fight, the men that support, the men that walk with all of us. When it comes to introduce myself to the parts of the world, I know I can introduce the woman I love, though I know I cannot introduce her to the woman that helped me grow. Freedom to express ourselves is a constant fight. Like while waking up in a foggy morning like those in Pacifica, California, those are no moody mornings. Those are a constant reminder that fog is part of the beauty of finding the sunlight. So I don't dream of no longer fog invading Pacifica or the Bay Area. So I do dream of nosotros, hermanos, hermanas y hermanes, hijos, hijas e hijes de la Madre Tierra, protesting for our rights and the rights of those that cannot make it. And that when it comes to tell the world who we cannot doubt, but to tell we're as queer as the universe is full of stars. Thank you.
Awesome. But to tell we are as queer as the universe is full of stars. Incredible, Hilary. My next question to you is writing about trauma, identity, and sexuality. You are also writing to speak the truth, breaking down the walls. And while you are a proud and loud performing artist on the page as a poet, it must also make you vulnerable. I would like to know, how do you embrace vulnerability through your poetry?
You know, I feel that was one of the reasons why I was always scared of like sharing poetry. Because it's like when I get to know somebody else or I start working on a new place, I'm very shy. I'm very shy. And then like 2 months later, I'm like, who are you? Who have you become, right? So I feel that in a way, poetry little by little has helped me to do that. So like if I go back and read old poems and I read the new ones and I think, wow, who am I and who have I become? But I feel that the way that I embrace vulnerability to poetry is that one thing that I learned from my grandma is that she always said, you know, you gotta tell me how you're feeling. I remember one time I got home all dirty and got bad grades that semester, and then she was like, you gotta tell me how you're feeling, because I can, the teachers were talking to me and they were like, why Hilary got this score when she like, what's happening at home and stuff like that. I was like, I don't know, I thought she was fine, you know? So grandma comes to me and she's like, hey, so what's happening? I'm like, nothing, it's okay. And then she kept questioning, you know, and every day she changed her mood, and she told me, if you don't want to talk to me, it's fine, but you ask yourself what's happening, you know? And when you're ready to tell me, when you're ready to tell yourself what's happening, then tell me what's happening, so I am able to help you in this. And so I was always scared of like asking for help, stuff like that. Sometimes I still am. So when I write and when I it's like share my poetry with people, I think of my grandma all the time, and I think of her like telling me, you know, tell people what's happening. So, you know, it's because it's fine to be vulnerable. It's completely fine. We don't have to be strong all the time. We don't have to be happy all the time, and we're not gonna be sad all the time. So it's fine, you know. It's fine to be vulnerable. It's fine to say I am a human being who goes through things, and I fortunately cannot be happy all the time, right? So I feel that poetry has allowed me to recognize that, you know, I'm a person, right? And like anybody else, I go through things, and I just need to understand that those things that are happening happen, and the best thing that I can do is just embrace them. And the way that I choose to do that is just by sharing people, and I guess in a way to to encourage people, to be like, it's fine not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay, right? That famous phrase that it's all over social media and everybody's, well, I feel, but yeah.
That's true, Hilary. Thank you for sharing that. And although we are getting really close to the time for the featured segment, I really want all of us to hear that poem that you shared when you were here in Belmont for the Pride flag raising ceremony. I remember you read that piece and it was really empowering. So why don't you close us off with that?
Yes, I'll do that. Right. So this poem is called To Raise One's Voice, to Hold One's Identity. Everything spins around, our bodies dreaming of holding each of the desires, our souls walking slowly in the mystery of binary bathrooms, our hearts surviving tragedies that have killed us for breaking out with the heteropatriarchal norms. Everything hurts. The necessity to become the individual that surpasses the fear of finally using the women's bathroom while getting confusion and anger from the eyes that a simple bathroom holds. Everything comes back to life. The mushrooms get life from the dead that sleeps in the forest, and the fear of the none shall encourage to ask for people's pronouns, to listen to the stories that remain unseen but judged because of a queer brown skin. Everything is alive. The non-visible ability to survive in a country that was built to break down identities of the people of the land. The visible ability to give our names the identity of a bird or any other energy being. To become the messengers of a spiritual transgression, to restore the balance of our bodies, becoming themselves, of our souls, embarking their journey of our hearts, listening to the echoes of our ancestors that taught us that we move in a dual energy of being, los seres vivos, un cuerpo espiritual que se sostiene de la vida y de la dualidad de ella misma, de nuestra voz, de nuestra propia identidad.
Fabulous, Hilary. Really, I love the line in there which says everything is alive, the non-visible ability to survive. And I think it just took me back to Audre Lorde's poem called A Litany for Survival. If you have read that and heard those famous last closing lines of the poem. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. Such a great piece, and your piece reminded me of that one. I'd really like to thank you. Muchas gracias. Your writing, it has its own movement and depth, just like your voice, carrying so much hope and truth and promise and beauty, opening up new meanings and understanding. Thank you for exploring and preserving your heritage, your culture, and yourself through the poetry you are making. I think representation not only matters, but it is also becoming a voice for many. And you are one of them, reflecting both humility and honesty as you represent your communities. I'll open the floor up briefly for questions or comments before we close the segment and I end the recording. So please go ahead.
I'd like to ask Hilary, this is Steve, just ask Hilary if you have, thank you very much for your reading. Have you talked with the Mayans in the outlying areas, Hilary? What contact briefly have you had with the Mayans? Go ahead.
I mean, when you think of the Mayans, it's just people, neighbors, right? So the one way to identify them, it's just, they are speaking they're speaking in a dialect, and they're speaking in other language that it's not Spanish. So my friends, some of my friends speak some of the dialects that live in Guatemala. So it's just in a way, with friends, with community, with that I was able to build while I was, you know, living in Guatemala. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your reading, Hilary. It was inspiring. It's always so tough to follow the featured reader sometimes.
thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Hi, this is Leo. It's a question I like to ask my bilingual and multilingual friends. And with that being said, feel free to answer as well, Monica. But Hilary, what language do you dream in?
I actually dream in Spanish. Yes, that's pretty cool. I never thought of it, but now that I think about it, yes, I do dream in Spanish. Yeah, I think because I talk more in Spanish, but who knows? What about you? What language do you dream in?
I'm a native English speaker. I've only picked up language in
Right.
like high school and college years, so mostly in English. But once in a great while, Spanish
Interesting.
enters my dream, so it's pretty interesting.
Nice.
My favorite one was the one about home, Hilary, the long one about home. That was my favorite that you did.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, I'll say we all had a great time listening to you, and I had such fun to have this conversation with you, Hilary. I hope you too loved the experience. Thanks again. What more can I say? That I'm proud, and as I keep saying to you, más poder para ti.
Más poder para usted también.
All right, with that, we are going to stop recording this segment. Those of you who are in the Zoom room, please stay online for the open mic segment of the evening. To the YouTube audience, thanks for joining in and hope to see you for next month's virtual Belmont Poetry Night. Good night.